Okay, so I got everything buffed out pretty much where I want it. Got the neck buffed as well. And I got my tuners put on there. There's some fingerprints, but yeah, looks really nice. So now it is actually time to glue the neck on. So, well, when I say glue, I just mean glue the actual fretboard down, and the bolts will actually hold the neck on. But anyway, the bolts I use are these. See if I can get it to focus. Yeah, they're a little 1/4-20, and they have the little rubber stop on it so that they don't come loose. Okay, and then I'll use a washer on there as well. So this is pretty cut and dry. It's not very difficult. The little channel right here where the fretboard's gonna go, there's about an 1/8 inch of finish that the fretboard will go over. Just because it doesn't have to be all the way to the edge. But now the bridge, the finish will go all the way, you know, to the very edge of the bridge. No finish will be under the bridge. But with the fretboard, it doesn't matter quite as much because there's really no stress right there. So the way I do it is I've got a few squeeze clamps. I got like 4 of them. So I just take my Type Bond, or use any glue you want. I'm just gonna put a little bit on here. You don't really need a whole lot. And I'm just gonna spread it out. I also did a dry fit first just to make sure everything's lined up the way I want it. Always good to do that. So now I'll just take my neck and I will pop it on there. Of course, when the camera's rolling, that happens, but it's fine. Wipe away some of that squeeze out. All right, so now I'll take my little washers and I'll put them on the bolts. All right, and then I'll take my nuts and I'll go ahead and screw those on as well. All right, so I don't have the neck completely tightened down. You can see I can kind of move it a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is take a couple squeeze clamps, and I've got a little pad on the bottom. That way I can clamp it on the guitar like this. Just to make sure the fretboard is sitting down flush on the top. I don't want any gaps. Okay, I'll check both sides. We're looking good. All right, so tighten the bolts down. I get them pretty dang snug. All right, now I can take these clamps and clamp the end of the fingerboard. Yeah, so there we go. That looks really nice. Everything's seated and tight. And yeah, there we go. So I'll let that dry for a little while, and then next thing we'll do is glue on the bridge. So now it is time to glue the bridge. I got my fretboard glued on, my neck put on there. So up next is the bridge. So this is the bridge that I've made for this guitar. And as you can see, I've got 2 holes drilled in the top where the both E strings are, and I've got 2 little dowels in the bridge. You can see that, the same size. It's 3/16. So what I can do with these dowels is I can put them right down in this hole. That way, when I go to clamp it, it doesn't slide around everywhere. And one more thing to note about the bridge is when your bridge is on there, if you take a straight edge and put it on the fretboard, you want to see, you know, just a tiny little gap between the bridge and the straight edge. So on this one, you know, it's about 1/32 of an inch, maybe a 1/16 at most, and that's the right neck angle, and that'll give us a nice saddle height and a good action. So just keep that in mind when you make your bridge. So, and you can see I took tape and I taped along the edge about, I don't know, a 1/32 of an inch from where the bridge is actually going to sit, just so glue doesn't get everywhere. Because when I glue this down, there will be a pretty good bit of squeeze out. So, so to clamp this down, I'm going to use this 5-inch C-clamp kind of thing. And then I've got a little wooden caul I made. It's just a crude little thing that'll go on the inside, and that'll give me a surface for my clamp to sit on. And then I have this, which will sit on top of the bridge like that. And then there's these little metal things that'll go under here and clamp the ends down. So it's really not too hard to do if you have all the right tools. And I'm just going to use regular Type Bond. Again, you can use whatever glue you want, but I think Type Bond works really nice. So yeah, just, you know, make sure your bridge is in the right place and everything, and, you know, just, yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and send it. So what I like to do, some people put the glue on the top. You can do that. I like to just take the glue and I'm gonna spread it right onto the bridge. Okay, kind of like that. So now I'm just going to take that and spread that around pretty evenly. Just get a nice uniform coat of glue. Alright, so got a pretty good coating on there. So now what I'm going to do is stick my bridge down in my holes there, get it lined up. Okay, just like that. Alright, so now I'm gonna put my little metal caul on here, just like that, and then I'll slide these 2 metal pieces under the ends. And there's a lot of different ways to clamp a bridge. This is just kind of the system that I've sort of evolved to. But now, I'm gonna loosen this clamp a little bit. And the good thing with Titebond is you got a little bit of time to work with it. If this was like hot hide glue or something, you'd really be rushing. And I don't want to rush, so put my caul in place here. Now it's kind of a balancing act, getting everything on. Okay. So now I can just take this and I'll tighten it down. Not crazy tight right now. Okay, but you can see that squeeze out, you know, it's all around there, which is exactly what I want. I don't want any gaps or voids or anything. So now I can tighten down the ends. Yeah, that looks pretty darn good. So now all I got to do is just clean the squeeze out and then take the tape off and we're done. So yeah, that's pretty much it for gluing on the fretboard and bridge, and then after that we'll be ready to start setting this thing up and getting it ready to play. So I'll see you guys then.